Okay, hello, Lady Bosses, Diamond Divas, and Soul Sisters. How are you? It is Lady Boss Wednesday, and I'm here with the marvelous Miss Carmen Milagro. Thank you for being here, gorgeous. Appreciate your time and you being with
Oh,
us.
well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share some really good stuff. I think it's going to be a whirlwind of information.
Oh, and we love whirlwind of information here. I've been getting some great feedback from the lady bosses for the 60-day business transformation thus far. I've heard that they've really gotten some great information from it. I've heard that they're really enjoying all the insight from the experts who are coming on. So I know that having you just presenting this is going to just be like a nice little cherry on top of the cake. This is going to be so good. Been looking forward to this, and I know the lady bosses have been looking forward to it too. We've been talking about it. So a little bit of history. Miss Carmen Milagro is a CBD. What would you say that you are a CBD, not doc? I don't want to say doctor, but
No. I'm a CBD educator.
yes. And she has some amazing products. So definitely check that out. Bourbon Skincare. Also a confidence strategist, a vocalist. This lady is just amazing. There's no end to her creativity and all the wonderful things that she does. And there's no reason why she shouldn't be here helping us find out how to find the perfect coach. So I'm going to leave it to you if you want to give anybody a little bit more information about your background, Carmen.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. That was really lovely. That was one of the best introductions ever. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I'm very, very happy to see you all and be with you and share this information. As Moni mentioned, I'm a CBD educator and I'm a confidence strategist. I work with top CEOs and athletes and executives and PhDs and community leaders, musicians, real estate moguls. That's just kind of a partial list so that you get an idea of what I do as a consultant. The one thing that I really love to do, though, is I really love to help first-time entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who are, they've got an idea and they don't know quite what to do with it yet. They're looking for guidance. I love working with startups. And a lot of times I think what, we had talked about, Moni, is there's a lot of experiences that we have under our belt. And if we can help someone avoid the pitfalls that we have fallen in, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was, to me, that is part of giving back to the community and helping other people. That's my purpose in life. So that's just, a little bit about what I do. And I'd love to learn, whoever's watching, if you want to put in some of the comments of what are some of the things that you're working on? What are your ideas? What are your current businesses? Are you in pivot mode? We all know that COVID has really taken us for a ride. The way that we do business has changed dramatically, possibly forever, I believe. And so the more information that you can garner from people who have gone through the processes, the more I think that you're better equipped to deal with situations that may come up in the future too. I think this one kind of took us all by surprise, and some were able to pivot immediately, and others, it took us a little while, to regain our footing, just because no one has really ever gone through this. We've gone through other challenges, right? Historical challenges, 9/11, all sorts of different situations that we have gone through as a nation, as a community, as business leaders, as startups. So yeah, I'd love to, maybe you can share with us, Moni, as we go on, like some of the ideas that some of these lady bosses are working on. We want to hear, we want to, help you along the way if we can.
Absolutely, yes. Spoken like a true leader. So I'm going to give the floor to Carmen. I'm just going to stay back here in the background. I'll be checking in on comments, and I'll be popping those in when they come in, Carmen.
Okay.
And I'm super excited. Thank you again for being here. Ladies, you are in for a treat. Sit back, enjoy, and soak it all in. Thank you, Carmen. I'll see you at the end.
All right, Moni, thank you. So one thing that I definitely would love to start with, and just to, again, sort of give you a well-rounded picture, the information that I'm sharing with you is for educational purposes. I am not a therapist, and I'm as I mentioned before, I'm not really a coach. I'm a consultant. I tend to work with the companies and educational programs that hire me to, they hire me to come and teach these confidence strategies 101 to their people, their teams. But lately, as we've seen, everything has changed and everything has shifted. So I am starting to work more with one-on-one clients, and it could be for just one session, depending on what the need is, the conversation, or it could be the 10-week program, which is confidence strategies, the whole sort of gamut. For the next like 10 minutes or so, I want to really go through the step number 1 of confidence strategies before we go into how to find the perfect coach. And the reason that I thought I should do this with you is because, you know, one of the things that I talk about and practice and preach and start everything with is that we all should have a very clear, concrete foundation. So if I were to just jump in and say, okay, let me just share some ideas and thought processes here with you on how to find the perfect coach, but you haven't gone through this process with me, it could be a little daunting and it could be a little bit confusing. So I blended basically 2 presentations, created this hybrid just for the lady bosses, just for you diamond divas. And we're gonna scratch, you know, the surface a little bit. It's normally a process that takes 6 to 10 weeks. We're going to cram it into, 10 minutes or so that you get the ball rolling in your mind about some of the questions, some of the things that you should know about yourself before going forward and looking for and how to find that perfect coach. You really need to know, in my opinion, you really need to know the person who's shopping for the coach. Who is that person? What are they looking for? What do they need? And so you need to know you in order to do that. I think that this is something that's pretty important, but we'll kind of not speed through it, but we'll touch base on it a little bit. And one question that I wanted to throw out there, and if anyone wants to answer it now or later, is the reason that I go through when we're doing the confidence strategies and I start with step 1 is I always ask, how many of you have your own personal 5-second pitch? It's not the business elevator pitch. I'm talking about you as the person, as the business owner, as the startup. You've got this great idea and you're going to create this multi-billion-dollar startup. But how many of you actually take the time to create your own personal 5-second pitch? So we can circle back to that later on. I'm just really curious to see if there's any answers to that. And the reason that I ask that is because I have worked on mine for a while. And I can tell you in 4.79 seconds, my name is Carmen Milagro. I'm an entrepreneurist. My passion is music, and my purpose is to help others. This is the cornerstone of what I believe everyone should have, their foundation of who they are, what they believe in, what they want to do, what they're doing, so that they can move forward. And again, the clients that I do help as startups and first-time entrepreneurs, this is where we start. The next process that we're going to go through, how do you get that 5-second pitch, that this is who I am statement? Well, you need to ask yourself, who are you? And some of these leading questions that help you get to those answers. And I hope you're taking notes or taking screenshots, whatever it is that you need to do, because these can be really helpful reminders for you as you maybe start this process on your own, because it is possible to do it on your own. Just sometimes we all need a little guidance. So that's what I'm here for today. So I see myself as, that's a great question, so that you start thinking about yourself in a different way. I am such and such. If you were being introduced to a stranger, what's the first thing that you want them to know about you as a human being, as an entrepreneur, as a startup owner, as a business owner, as a female executive, as a female coach, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever your business is, what's the first thing that you believe they should know about you? So that is usually about a week's process, but I'm just, again, going to summarize these for you so that you get a good idea where to go and how to get started. So the next one is what and or who do you believe in? I'm motivated by money. I'm motivated by being a community leader. I'm motivated by whatever it is that really, draws out your purpose and your passion. What are your beliefs? What do you believe in? What do you stand for? What's the meaning about what you do and what you say as you move through your life? These are the drivers, right? These questions and the answers to these questions are the drivers that help you to accomplish everything that you need to do on a day in and day out basis, your long-term goals, your future, way out there, 10 years, 20 years from now. When you know this about yourself, it is a fundamental, in my opinion, a fundamental key to your success. The next one is, where do you come from? You always hear people talking about their roots and their culture. All of this impacts us. So you might want to dive in there for a while and really dig around and see what is it that you're bringing with you for your future. What are you bringing with you to share with others? And where are you going? What's your philosophy with all this information? What do you plan on doing with it? And why is this important? Because how are you going to plan for your future or embark on your journey if you don't know where you've been or where you come from? This one usually takes people by surprise. I'll be honest. Sometimes it's a very difficult step. And sometimes we do allow for 1 to 2 full weeks of diving into this. And again, for our intents and purposes today, this is just to get the juices flowing, right? The thought process flowing. Why? Why is also very important. Why do you believe what you believe? I believe such and such because I was told to, or I was taught to. Okay, but why? Why were you taught this? The more you ask the why, the deeper you'll go. And sometimes it's an uncomfortable place. But I promise you, when you go and dive that deep, you do come out with some incredible insights on you, yourself, so that you can elevate or launch your business. And you are immovable. Once you know who you are, what your core is, everything that life is going to throw at you, it's going to happen. Sometimes it's expected, sometimes it's unexpected. But when you have a steel core and knowledge about who you are and what drives you and why you're doing it, you will always be able to figure out a way how to get to the next level. It may not be the way that you initially imagined or planned it, but you will get there. How is really important because it ties into digging into your past. It ties into your family history. It ties into your belief system and your philosophies. You're inspired by what or whom or what is it that really lights? What's the fuel for your passion? You are light and love because of what? Those are really important questions. And I know sometimes people think, why do I have to go through this process when I'm gonna launch a speaker system company? You don't. The answer is you don't. This is all your choice whether or not you want to build that kind of core foundation for you. No one can make decisions about how you are going to launch your business or create a brand or market yourself other than you. So that's what this is really designed to do. It allows you to know yourself so well. This is key. You might want to write this one down. This process that I believe is critical for everyone. This process allows you to know who you are to the point of that no one can come in and disrupt your confidence. They can't derail you. They can't talk you out of what you are supposed to do, what you know is possible. I had an interview with a comedian friend of mine last night, and we talked about this. And he really simplified it for me. He said, there's one thing that he's learned and he's observed in his community of, writers and comedians and artists, is that COVID has had a way of really shaking the tree, and people who aren't all in or more easily, I should say, distracted, disheartened. The ones who quit are the ones that didn't really, and again, this is my opinion. This is why I teach this the way I do with my clients. It's if you aren't all in, then someone could easily just knock you over with a feather from your path. Because if you don't know who you are and why you're doing something, where's the fuel when everything is set to knock you down? Where do you draw from if you don't know the answer to these questions? So that's an oversimplification, of course, but something to think about. Okay, so now that we've kind of scratch the surface with all of that. Now we're going to get into the sort of the meat and potatoes of what this conversation is about. Is a coach necessary? So one of the, I was an attendee at one of these presentations and seminars about 2 or 3 years ago, and this line right here, success in college is 70% life skills and 30% study skills, really resonated and stuck with me. And the reason, someone said this, I can't remember who it was, but the reason that it stuck with me is that 70% of life skills, that's going to make you successful both in learning and in life. And as a confidence strategist, I really believe that this is true. I think this is a paramount statement to remember. Academic skills are super important. Of course, don't get me wrong. There's absolutely, you've got to have knowledge and you've got to have an education, whatever that education looks like for you. But in my experience, when you have a confident foundation and a sense of self, when you have that, when you've done all this work, because this is preparation for your startup, for your new business, for your new career, you have to rely on these life skills. If you're lacking or short on them, you probably need a coach. And at some point, I do believe that all of us need a mentor or an advisor or a coach of some sort. But for today, we're going to focus on a coach. Now, I've seen interns, mentees, and my clients, they learn to write effective papers and theories. They have all their college resource centers and all of that. But the day-to-day success, they tend to flow mostly from the rituals and habits, your life skills that you acquire. You're learning now how to plan time. How do you compartmentalize projects and clients' needs versus your needs? Moni and I were just talking about this before we were live, before I came on, and took me to the age of 53 to figure out what works for me. And what works for me is that I am my own client. So when I treat myself as my client, my projects, my needs get done because I'm putting myself on par with my clients' needs and their projects and their deadlines. For me, it's just a simple little mindset that worked. It might not work for everyone, but for me, that was something that, I want to make sure that we have the tools and we have the information, but we don't always do what we're supposed to do. So that was one way for me to stay on track. One of the strategies in life is to find that right coach. But the key to that successful search is that you're the only person that can decide if this is necessary. Is this the right time? And we'll get into that in some of these other slides. So we want you to grow and thrive. And I do believe that by matching yourself up with the right coach at the right time, that's how you do it. It is a necessary step for many of us. Again, in the questions and the comments, I'd love to know how many of you think that you need a coach and how many of you are searching one, for one, how many of you are already in that process of hiring one. So if you are in that process, this is the perfect time to just sort of lean into this presentation and it's food for thought, right? Let me get us to the next one. The first thing that we have to acknowledge when we are looking for a coach, we don't know everything. I don't care if you're a PhD or you've got a gazillion degrees. At the end of the day, no one knows everything. And what I've seen and what I've observed and what I've learned from is that the best coaches have the best coaches. So one way to sort of, when you're in this process of looking for a coach, is find out who's coaching that person that you're interested in. Are they working with coaches that are, like on the next level? Usually, I'll give you an example. It's an analogy really, but in the music business, when I left the corporate world and I said, my life is music and this is what I want to dedicate myself to. This was in my late or mid 30s to my, late 40s. And I didn't surround myself with musicians who were on my level or even lesser musicians. It was completely out of my comfort zone and super scary. And I felt like a fool sometimes, but I only surrounded myself with musicians who were so incredibly highly skilled that I had no choice but to learn and grow from that uncomfortable space. So they were coaching me. They took me under their wing. They showed me the business of music. They showed me all kinds of tools and hacks and tricks of their trade. So one thing that I always was looking for when I get set to work with a coach, and I probably will be getting set to work with another coach soon because one of my life goals is to become a filmmaker. Well, I'm going to need a coach to help me through that because I have some experience, but I know that I'm going to need a coach. I want a coach. So I'm going to look at this, like, who is that person being coached by? That to me is a really important piece to consider. Okay, moving on. How do you find the best coach, right? So here's the thing. For me, right, yes, how is important, but the why is also important. We're going to get into sort of the nitty gritty, I think, in these next few slides. But before we do that, I do want to mention one thing that one of my coaches did say to me is most successful people never stop learning. So that's why it's such an important piece, to look and see who your coach is being coached by. All right, so we are on, lost my place. Okay, number 11, yeah. So the nitty gritty, the question that I ask here is, How do you know which coach and what type of coach you need? Well, there's only one real answer, and that's only you know what you need and what you're looking for. You have to go out and find that coach, but you have to remember there are different coaches for different things. So if you don't know what you need, how are you going to find the right matched coach? There are life coaches, yoga coaches, voice coaches, leadership coaches. I mean, you name it, they're all out there. So what specific area of your learning path are you focused on? And you should pick one to start. You should know, just like when you're talking about your business, you need to be really laser focus on this for yourself too, because that is going to really help you in knowing how to choose, how to even decide on which coach is the best for you at this time. What type of coach, right? All right, so the next one. Oh, and before I forget, the biggest tip, I think, out of all of this, if you really want to write this down, and don't forget this one, is don't spend thousands of dollars to figure out what kind of coach or who you need. You should know this before you even start talking about your coach's rates. You should already know what type of coach you need and who or in essence, what it is that you're looking for. Because I'll give you an example. I have seen this happen so many times, and it just breaks my heart. People go to seminars or retreats and they fall in love with the speaker, which is great. They're there to entice you. That's what their job is. Their job is to present themselves in a way that you fall in love with them, and then you want to work with them. But what good does that do if you don't know what it is that you need and what you need in this point in time? Because you need different things throughout your journey. But let's say you go to a retreat and someone is talking about leadership coaching. Great. They have a great presentation. They are dynamic and they're vital and they're engaging and you just love their energy. But you aren't quite ready to be a leader. But you sign on the dotted line, you pay those thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars or whatever, and then you realize, oh, this wasn't for me. And, oh, by the way, there's no refund. Right? So you really do need to know this about yourself. And again, it goes back to knowing who you are, what you're doing, why, all of that. This is why it's so important. You should have a set budget when it comes to this. Now, it's all relative and it all depends on where you are in your journey. But I'm going to really address the point of being a startup or first-time entrepreneur, or you're pivoting and just there are restrictions on what you can and cannot do. Most of them tend to be budgetary restrictions. So know what your budget is, know what you're able to spend before you sign that dotted line. You should already know. I can't emphasize this enough. You should already know why you're looking for a coach, what kind of coach that you're looking for, and how much you can spend. All right? So question number 2 is, again, it's another form of the why question, but what's your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your end goal? What's your end game? Do you know that you want a coach for 3 months? That's a great piece of information that you should know. I have a budget for 3 months. I'm going to get the best that I can for that amount of money. So that's part of the process. That's part of the questions that you're going to ask. What are your objectives? What do you want to learn? What is it that you want to focus on? That not only makes it easier for you to find the best matched coach, but it makes the job of the coach much easier because they know how to help you when you tell them exactly what you're hoping to accomplish. Question number 3 is very important. It's sort of right up there with, what I said earlier about, well, it's all fine and dandy if they're dynamic and you love them, but how does their program work? How does that coach work? Are you going to be in a Zoom with 50 other people? Is that what their program is? You need to find these things out, or is it one-on-one? Is it a scenario where you're being lectured at and talked to, or is it more interactive? I mean, I can tell you from my point of view, I don't do very well when I'm being talked to and lectured to. That's the thing that I miss the most about, the world that we're living in right now is, yes, there's comments and people can send questions later on when they rewatch this or whatever. But for me, there's nothing quite as dynamic as being in the room with other human beings. So I do 100% prefer that methodology versus what we have to do now. But it is what it is. And believe me, before COVID, I can count on my hands probably I had been on a Zoom maybe once before March 15th of 2020. And now I've got hundreds of them under my belt because I had to make that decision. Got to jump in. And Moni knows technology is not my strength, but I learned how to use StreamYard for my Tuesday shows for Confidence Strategies 101. I had to. This is what it is. So anyway, getting back to, what type of program? How does the coach? And does that work for you? We all know, or most of us know, some of us are very auditory. Others are more visual. Some of us are, both. So there's no reason for you to not be able to ask those questions or do the research on that coach that you're interested in, right? Is it a self-paced program? I'll tell you one thing. If I'm allowed to my own devices and I don't have deadlines, I might be labeled as a procrastinator. Not that I won't get it done, but I do much better with deadlines. So whenever I'm going to be coached, I want to make sure that that program is designed for people like me. I have deadlines. I'm going to work better under pressure sometimes, but not everyone does. How much time is required in this program? What does the coach expect of you? Those are really important questions to find out before you write that check, or send that Zelle transfer. Is there a refund policy? That's another important question. I think I mentioned that earlier. You'd be surprised, though, how many people don't ask a single question. They don't ask any of these questions before they fork over their payment. And I'm always surprised and dismayed sometimes because I do hear and I do see some of the horror stories that happen. Get quotes. Like everything else, shop around. Why wouldn't you find 3? And of course, you want to make sure that you compare apples to apples, right? You're not going to compare a yoga coach to a leadership skills coach. That's just not possible. But find 3 different coaches, for example, that are leadership coaches and get quotes from them. Find out, interview them. You're hiring someone that you are going to turn over yourself to. You should interview them and make sure, like therapists or doctors, I always interview my doctor. I haven't had to change my general practitioner. I have had her for, God bless her, for over 20 years, but I interviewed her before I said, oh yeah, she's the doctor for me. That's the same approach that I would take when you're looking for a coach. Right now, it is the buyer's market. And why do I say that? It's because everyone that is in the coaching business has had to pivot and become online coaches. So it's telecoaching. So it has leveled out a lot of the playing field. And that's why you have more choices than what you used to have before. You have more access. So definitely shop around. Question number 4, we roughly touched on this, is does the coach's style work for you? And this to me is critical. It really is, because if you don't jive with your doctor, if you don't jive with your therapist, if you don't jive with your coach, you will not get the maximum results that you need and that you're paying for. I'll give you a perfect example. And in fact, she came up in my potential partnership call that I had before this presentation. I was at as a presentation, a seminar in Southern California last year. And one of the keynote speakers was Jillian Michaels. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's from The Biggest Loser, I think is the show. And she's a fitness coach, right? Phenomenal, multi-million or billion-dollar industry she's become. But before I saw her speak as a motivational speaker, as a motivational coach, I had one perspective on who she was, and that was the character that she plays, that fitness coach that she plays on the show, and I could not stand her. Forgive me, Jillian, because I love you now, but before I was at the presentation, I only had one perspective of who she was, and that bullying, that aggressive, in-your-face type of fitness coach, I can promise you that I would have walked out, hopefully silently. But her style on that show would never have worked for me. But after watching her in person, live, on stage, I'm just a few rows away from her, and she is one of the nicest, most genuine, kind, helpful people that I've ever listened to. My perception of her is completely different. That style that I now am familiar with on how she talks about, just going all in and believing in yourself, and that motivational conversation that she was having with her audience, myself included, that style works for me. But I would never have known that. So I think it's really important. And in this day and age, there's no excuse not to know what a coach's style is. And you will get a chance to figure it out if it meshes with you, because that's key. How are you going to learn from someone who's coaching you if you can't stand them? Stands to reason, right? All right. Question number 5. So most people have had at some point in their lives, or they're currently working with some type of coach. And if that coach is something where you're headed, like that's your interest, that's the area where you want to be coached from, ask them about their experience. Ask your friends, ask them to refer, hey, do you know of someone? Are you working with someone? Like, word of mouth is still in this day and age of social Twitter madness and Instagram and who knows what else, word of mouth is still, when you are talking on the phone or on a Zoom or in person with someone that you trust and they say, hey, I work with Moni. She is the best at helping me accomplish what I need. Then where should you go next in your search, right? Like that, it stands to reason. That's a logical way to start your investigation, your research. I think, well, let me go to the next one. You've got to do your own due diligence. Always, always, always. You must do your own due diligence. You can find out, unless they are a coach who has had no track record and no clients, and there's no history, most coaches, right? They are going to be on lives on Facebook. They're going to be TEDx speakers. They're going to be, you can Google them. You can watch YouTubes. You can go on LinkedIn. Like, there's no excuse to not do your own due diligence on the coach or coaches that you're interested in. And the more research that you do, the easier it will be for you to pinpoint, yes, this is the right coach, this is the right direction that I'm headed in, or, well, maybe it's not the right time for me. All of those are valid decisions, but only you can make them. Question number 7, is an expensive program, an expensive coach, the top of the top, the creme de la creme, are they always better? Is that where you should, because we talk about investing in ourselves, and aren't we worth thousands and thousands of dollars because we want the best of everything, right? Well, I'm here to say not necessarily. It all depends, because I think that the better question to ask is this the right coach for me? Is this the right time to jump in? Am I committed to do this, to do the work and invest the time and the money and the emotional component that comes along with this, right? If the original question turns into the cost of what is this coach, what are the cost of what this coach is offering me, is if the original question turns into, yes, this is of value to me, then it's no longer about whether or not they're expensive or whether they're better. It's about what's the value that you expect in return for that investment. And sometimes if you're able to, yeah, go for the best. Spend the money. You are worth it. But let's keep in mind that we all, especially at first time, entrepreneurs, startups, baby startups, we don't always have that luxury. Hopefully you do, but we don't always have that financial restrictions in our lives. It's a very real, valid thing. And so everything is relative, and it's up to you to discern what's the best step for you. But when you do get to that point and you've asked yourself all these questions, then it's no longer a cost. That's what I call that magic moment when it's not a cost, it's not an expense. It really, truly is that worthwhile investment in yourself. But remember, with an investment, like any other type of investment, you've got to work. You've got to do the work. You've got to be present. You've got to do the work and show up. Otherwise, it is a waste of money. What if you don't have a budget or a clue? Well, right now, especially, I say follow the Costco rule. Sample around. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a whole new ballgame in the coaching world right now. There are literally thousands of free presentations, workshops, seminars. They're all available. And why are they free? Because, again, the market, everything has been saturated. And so there are a lot of people now that had to learn a new way to acquire their clients, a new way to bring on new business. They're samples. So you can, like you're doing today, this is a free sample of what I do. It's not the entire program, but hopefully you're getting something out of this that can trigger some growth and progress for you. And most every single coach that I know of in every arena is doing some free presentations for that purpose, right? They want to help people, but they are also looking for new clients. This is the buyer's market. So when you see a sample and you do your due diligence and everything that we talk about and you dive in, that is going to allow you to choose the best one for you. I know we have a little bit of a time constraint, and I am almost finished. I promise I'll kind of breeze through this. One important question that I always say is really important is, does this coach align with your passion, your expertise, and your role in the world? Like, this is, I've said it in different ways throughout the presentation because I do believe that this is critical. Do they fuel your passion and your purpose? That, in my opinion, is the job of a coach. They should very quickly, because you know who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing it, and you've told them, they should very quickly be able to jump in and start showing you what you need to do, as opposed to taking that time to figure out who you are, what you need, why you're doing it. You're paying someone for that process when, in my opinion, and my clients, I teach them to do all of this beforehand because it'll save you money in the long run, and time and energy and heartache sometimes. What's the worst that can happen, right? If you're financially able to do this, there's only so much research that you can do or should do, because at some point, if you decide that, yes, I need a coach and I'm going to get one and I'm going to do this, at some point you have to pull the trigger. You just got to jump in. You've done your due diligence. You've followed all these ideas and steps, or most of them. You take what you need. But at some point, you do have to make a decision, because you can do all the planning in the world, and if you don't take action, you will have zero results, right? And who knows, maybe even if you do all of this, you still might end up with not the greatest coach, but you will learn something. And I hope that you don't end up with an coach. But if that's the case, because there are factors beyond our control, right? And we will learn as we go. I have had some not so great coaches, but I am still grateful for the time that I spent with them, because I learned what I didn't want. I learned what didn't work for me. And I learned, oh, I'm not going to make that mistake again. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Oh, one quick thing. Always, 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 another triple always, ask about scholarships or financial aid. When you've chosen the coach that you want to go with, ask for some help. Are there, payment plans? If you really want to do this and you don't have the financial resources, there are always other ways to get to that point. So don't ever give up. Be creative and ask. Scholarships are a great ask, and I've come to realize that a lot of people do not ask for that. Sometimes coaches even offer a friends and family discount, or they modify their training program and they can drill it down to 4 weeks versus 6 weeks. And some are willing to accommodate because they do want to help you. Having said that, there are some coaches who will never discount their pricing. And that's up to them. That's their business model. But it's up to you. You have a choice of whether or not you're going to go there. And I think that's it. Hopefully this has helped you. And if you have any questions, please contact me or Moni. And, right here on the group page, I think Moni's going to come on in a little bit. I ran a little bit over, but I hope this was helpful to you and useful. And please feel free to contact me and tune in on Tuesdays to my Confidence Strategies broadcast. This has been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen. That was fabulous. Oh my gosh. I hope you guys got some notes on that. That was really good. The opening was just like, boom, mind blowing. I was like, yes, girl, give me more of that. I love that kind of stuff. So that was great. Thank you so much for laying this all out for us. The questions that we have to ask and the things that we should look for in finding a coach. I think it was so clear, and just, everyday stuff that we probably don't think about all the time, but it's nice to be reminded that it's very simple and that we just have to take a couple of minutes and just really think about what it is that we want to get out of it at the end of the day. So thank you for outlining all of that. It was fabulous.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And I'm so glad that my timing wasn't totally off.
Oh, you're totally fine. It is your Women's Wednesday, love. It was all about you and about what you can, just really share with the group. So great pointers, great time seeing you. Love your smile, love your energy. Thank you so much for Yes, thank you so much for being here. I saw you put your information up, but one more time, let all the lady bosses know where they can find you one more time.
Yes, absolutely. You can go onto the Facebook group page for Confidence Strategies 101. And that's where you'll find all kinds of past broadcasts and some tips. And we talk about finances. We talk about, this topic as well. But a lot of it is the stories from the guests who share with us their life hacks, their experiences, their philosophies. And it's really about inspiration.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, Lady Bosses, I hope you enjoyed today's Women's Wednesday. Feel free to reach out to either me or Carmen if you have any questions. And we just want you to find the perfect coach for you. And hopefully these pointers will help you find that. All right, everyone. Have a great Wednesday. Thank you so much, Carmen. Lovely to have you with us. And
lovely to see you. Let's do it again.
yes, we will. And Lady Bosses, have a great day and reach out if you need anything. Bye.
Bye.